I had it working this morning, but something
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So the rabbi's watch has died, so we could go all night. You never know. But he's not on. That's on. Now they're on.
Hine ma tov manayim
129, Eilech Hamdalibi.
Eilech Hamdalibi, Chusana Ve'ana Titalem. 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 Eilech Hamdalibi, Chusana Ve'ana Titalem.
Page 131, Shiru Adonai, Shir Chadash. We sing unto God a new song.
Shiru Adonai, Shir Chadash, Shiru Adonai, Chorz, Shiru Adonai, Baruch Shemo, Basru Miyom Le'om, Yeshuato, Sapru Bagoyim, Kevodo, Lechohamim, Nifleotav, Ki Gadol Adonai, Umkulam Me'od, Norahu, Al Kol Elohim, Hayaya, Yalayla, 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 Yalayla,
Our rabbis teach that what separated Moses as a Navi, as a prophet, from all the other prophets, is that Moses saw God through a clear glass, and all the other prophets saw God through differing degrees of smoked glass. I thought about that as I was looking at our sun this evening, which, not my sun, but the sun in the sky, which is behind this veil of haze and smoke. Completely different than it looks on a clear blue day. It's red now and kind of, soft around the edges. And when we think about the lenses and the filters through which we see the world, I begin to understand what the rabbis meant by what made Moses' clarity of vision and his perception of God so unique, so distinct from all those of all the others that tried to draw near to God. In the same way that the clarity that we have in some things in life is obscured by the veil that comes over our eyes for so many others. So maybe tonight as we meditate on our prayers, we can think about what we see clearly and what we see through a veil of smoke. What is hazy and soft around the edges that we could do better to clarify, and how could we clarify that? Through question, through study, through prayer, through relationship and conversation, to move away the smoke and the haze, to get to clarity, to get to insight. We continue Shalom Aleichem, page 142.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Nimelech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Malachei L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Nimelech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon,
continues with the lighting of the Shabbos candles, page 121. We want to invite our Bat Mitzvah, Hadar, to come forward with her grandmother, Dorora, and her mother, Natalie, to light the Shabbos candles.
These Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness remind us of the generation of Israel, who have kindled light. So may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Go ahead and take the candle and light the other two. Join together in the blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher ishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu le'adlik ner shel
Shabbat Shalom. As they return to their seats, we return to our prayer books, page 138, Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabla, shamor v'zachor b'diborecha, ishmiyan el hamiuchad Adonai echad, u'shmo echad l'shemo tiferet, v'letehila lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabla, likrat Shabbat lechu v'necha, ki mekor haberacha, mirosh mikedem, nesucha sof ma'aseh, mashavat tefila, lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabla, mikdash melech ir melucha, u'meisei mitoch rafecha, rav lach shevet v'amecha barcha, v'yachamo alaychem la, lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabla.
Verse 5.
Hitoreri, ki ba'orech, kumbi ori, uri, shir daveru, kavod Adonai, alayim niva, lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabla, bo'im v'shalom v'teret bala, gam v'simcha hotala, toch emune am sedula, bo'ichala, lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabla.
Remain standing and turn to page 200. I knew you were sitting down, but page 263, as we invite Hadar to join us on the Bima to help lead the rest of our services. We continue with Chatzi Kaddish, page 263.
Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemei, Rabba, Yamadi, Rashkute, Yamlich, Malchute, Mechai, Yechon, Yom, Echon, Uchaye, Lechol, Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Bagala, U'Bizman Karim, Veimeru, Amen, Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach, Le'alo Me'amaya, Yitbarach, Vishtabach, Vitpa'ar, Vitrama, Vitnasei, Vayitadar, Vayitaleh, Vayitaleh, Shmei L'Kudashah Baruch, Le'elam Mikol Berchata V'Shirata, Tushbechata V'Nechemata, Damim Be'alma, Ve'imeru, Amen.
We continue the Baruch Hu, page 264.
Please be seated. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidbaro ma'ariv arabim, b'chokhmah potach she'arim, ובתבונה משנה עתים, ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים, במשמרותיהם בהכיר כרצונו, בורא יום ולילה, גולל אור מפני חושך וחושך מפני יום, ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה. אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מעריב ערבים.
Amen. We may have taught her the prayers, but her parents taught her the Israeli accent.
Beit Yisrael, Amcha Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu, b'shofteinu u'b'chumeinu, nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'b'mitzvotecha, le'olam le'olam va'ed. Ki chen chayenu le'orech yomenu, u'behem negei yomam v'layla, ve'avotecha al tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohed Amo Yisrael. Ohed Amo Yisrael.
We continue responsibly. In each age we receive and transmit Torah. At each moment we are dressed by the word.
In each age, we are challenged by our ancient teaching. At each moment, we stand face to face with truth.
In each age we add a wisdom to that which has gone before. At each moment the knowing heart is filled with wonder.
In each age, we become its builders and seek to set the world firm on a foundation of truth.
Baruch atah Adonai, Ohem Amo Yisrael.
Amen.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Hashem, Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam va'ed.
Page 268.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושמרתם לבניך ודיברת בם, ושבתך בביתך
ושוכבך וקומך, וקשתם לאות עבדיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבת על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. למען תזכרו, ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אמן. אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We continue responsibly on page 269. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all.
Yet that
Oneness eludes our grasp, as imperfection and evil abound.
Before our eyes there is a vision of perfection, order, and goodness.
There is
Evil enough to break the heart, there is good enough to exalt the soul.
When will redemption come?
When we grant everyone what we claim for ourselves.
Long ago we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High.
We learned God's presence redeems time and again, so we celebrate this power that makes for freedom. We continue Michamocha, page 270.
Michamocha belim Adonai, Michamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot osefer, Nora tehilot osefer, Machaotecha ra'u banecha, boker yom lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, ze'elianu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch, Adonai yimloch, le'olam va'ed. V'ne'emar, ki Adonai et Yaakov, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאון ישראל. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרינו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרינו לחיים. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום, מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרינו לחיים.
Page 272, we join together Vishamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, ביני ובין בני ישראל, ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat,
moment now as we rise and turn to page 273 for our own private meditation before we join together with Hadar on 274 in the Amidah. Adonai sepetai tiftach ufi yagid tfilatecha. Adonai, open up our lips that our mouths may declare your praise. A moment of silent prayer. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Please be seated. We continue the bottom of page 277, 3 lines down. Kachim. The middle of page 278 in the English. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may we all live in such a way that this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Page 280, we offer a prayer of gratitude. As we thank God for the blessings that are in our lives. Modim anachnu lach she'tahu Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu le'olam va'ed. Sur chayenu magen yeshuenu v'atachu l'dor v'ador. The top of page 281 in the English. For the good in us, which calls us to a better life, we give thanks.
For the strength to improve the world with our hearts and our hands, we offer praise.
For the desire in us which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful.
For life and nature, harmony and beauty, for the hope of tomorrow, all praise to the sense of being.
Prior to services tonight and before Shabbos began, I joined a young couple from our congregation at their home with their family and a close circle of friends for the signing of their ketubah, for their chuppah, for their wedding, which will be this Sunday evening. They wanted to do it beforehand with Shabbos. And as we signed the documents, just before, I should say, I shared with them something I share with most wedding couples and those that are assembled when we sign the ketubah. I talked about how the document they're signing, with all of its beautiful words and its detailed enumerating of their obligations towards each other, is what is known. But that the real challenge of marriage is the gaps between the words, the gaps between the letters, the stuff that is not, the stuff that we don't know in advance and can't write down, where the real work of marriage exists. In thinking about that, it is true not only of a ketubah, but it is true of the work of peace as well. We live in an increasingly complex world as we are gripped by headlines every day, not just the soap opera or dumpster fire or whatever you want to describe it in Washington, but the real challenges of peace around the world, really difficult and challenging conflicts. Differences not only of opinions, but of cultures and of custom and of points of view of the world. It's one thing to deal with what is known, but the challenge and the scary part is the unknown, the stuff in between. In both marriage and in peacemaking, there is a tremendous degree of luck. There is a lot of hard work. And I think in those that are most successful, there is a great amount of empathy, compassion, and listening. That the real path to peace is not in what is written, but is in navigating the unwritten and developing new rules from the unspoken that becomes the guiding force in your life and also in our world. And so as we pray for peace with Shalom Rav, we pray not only for what is written, but also that we might discern from what is unwritten a path towards peace. Page 282. A prayer for healing is on page 371. I came back from 2 weeks away as faculty at Camp Kalsman just this past, whatever it was, Sunday. We'll hear more about it in a moment. And I was greeted with a list of people in our congregation that had taken ill while I was away and were in hospital or in recovery already. And so over the past week I've been calling them, and I am pleased to share with you that every person that I called had somebody there with them to everyone I called, they were comforted and supported by somebody else. And it made me feel the very essence of what this prayer is all about. That we're not asking, although maybe we would hope for, that God miraculously reach down and cure someone of a terrible disease. Although we pray for that, we know that that is as random as anything else. But rather that the presence of God be with those who we love, that they not be alone, that they find the courage and the strength that is provided by those that stand by their side, that hold their hand, that advocate for them, that cajole them and spur them towards healing, help them when healing eludes them. And so the Mishaberach this evening, this prayer for healing, is not only for those who are sick, but also for those who care for the sick, that together they might be bound up in their fight and their struggle for healing. May God grant they were foolish, they might complete healing to Susanna Tchaikovsky, Ellen Becker, Ed Ozer, Maury Dozer, Brenda Clark, who's doing much better, Doris Medved, Rivka Batnitsa, Naomi Jishmorna, Yana Timko, Miranda Burkhoff, Frank Levy. If there are others in need of this blessing, please share their names now in the midst of our congregation. We join with our cantor, the Mishaberach prayer for healing, page 371. Shabbat Shalom. A few announcements just to draw your attention to. They should also be on your handout if you took one as you came in. This Sunday, August 6th at 10 a.m., our sisterhood is having a walking group at Spanish Banks. You can meet up at 9:50 a.m. at Spanish Banks West near the picnic table. Also on Tuesday, August 8th, the sisterhood is having Book and a Bite at the home of Kathy Jones. The book discussion is on Boys in the Boat by Daniel James Brown. And you can RSVP to the office or to Elisa Street or Iris Stacy. Next Friday, August 11th, is Shabbat at the Beach. So there will be no 8:15 service here at the synagogue that Friday. Instead, we're at the very end of Spanish Banks. I think many of you have been there before. Look for, we can't seem to find our Temple Sholom banner, but if we do between now and then, look for that, and if not, just look for all the Jews gathered by the shade. We've started a new minhag. We invite you to bring with you a dessert to share, as well as your own picnic dinner to have on your own, and of course, come with friends, come with your dogs, but just come and be with us. In August, our 60-plus group is going to be having two events, two separate lunch and learns. On August 16th, Simon Krakowski, a member of our congregation, grew up in our synagogue, is now a member of the board, and on the board at Hillel UBC. Just returned from a birthright trip, and he's going to be sharing of his experiences on birthright. And then on August 30th, we're very excited to welcome Professor Tova Hartman. Professor Hartman is the Dean of Humanities, I think, at the Ona University in Israel. She is a renowned scholar on feminism and orthodoxy. She's also the daughter of Shalom Hartman, David Hartman, of the Hartman Institute in Israel. Those that study with me in our I Engage program, she is Danielle Hartman's sister. And she is a renowned and a wonderful scholar in her own right. That's Wednesday, August 30th at noon for the Lunch and Learn as part of our 60-plus group. And lastly, there is Torah study tomorrow morning at 8:30, and Minyan on Monday at 7:45. No Minyan on Monday, it's a holiday. 8:15. 8:30. 8:30, 9 o'clock, whatever. Sorry, it's a holiday weekend, so it's later. And a mazel tov and a thank you to Hadar and to her family for sponsoring our Oneg following services this evening. And we look forward tomorrow to your reading Torah and to your Bat Mitzvah. Tonight, I wanted to share with you some thoughts and reflections on my experiences this past 2 weeks at URJ Camp Calswood. This sermon is not about Donald Trump. It's not about the fires. It's not about Korea. It's not about what's going on in Israel. It's about camp. Yay. There's a company in Texas, and some of you have heard me share this part before. There's a company in Texas that for a fee, for $500, will allow you to go back to kindergarten for a day. For $500, you can wear mismatched socks, you can finger paint, play with blocks and Play-Doh, drink apple juice, eat graham crackers, and have nap time. They have a waiting list 6 months long. Every summer, I think, the Jewish equivalent of this act of going back to kindergarten, of regression. I spend a week, or in this case 2 weeks, at a Jewish summer camp as a rabbi in residence, as a member of the faculty. And over the last 5 years since I've been your rabbi here, the camp that I have been attending every year, although I've attended all of them, but the camp I go to every year is URJ Camp Calswood in Arlington, Washington, the Reform Movement's summer camp that is just 11 years old, our newest camp, where this year nearly 36 of our Temple Sholom students and campers are spending the summer swimming and canoeing and playing gaga and having song sessions after lunch and Israeli dancing late into the night, wearing white on Shabbat, and exploring the weekly Torah portion in skits and conversations, and in this incredible thing called Shabbat Shiraks, where the CITs create a rap about the week's Torah portion. Alexandra was just there. It's an experience that one can only have and can only happen in a sanctuary made of trees with its ceiling, its canopy of stars. If you can't tell, I love camp. I'm a rabbi because of my Jewish summer camp experiences back east as a teenager. And I drew tremendous spiritual renewal from my summer at Camp Calswood and my previous summers at Camp Miriam, where Noam was just returned from, and at Camp HaTikva as well. And while Jewish summer camp is almost by definition something for kids, the lesson of camp is transformative and impactful and valuable for grown-ups as well. Spend any time at a Jewish summer camp, and how many of you went to a Jewish summer camp or a summer camp filled with Jews as you were growing up? Spend any time at these camps, and you will see, as I saw, that our children love being Jewish at Jewish summer camp. They are connected to each other and to a power in their life, be it God or community or Jewish history or practice or culture or Hebrew, that is greater than they knew before they walked through those gates. And often it's not something that they ever experienced within these walls. While they might spend 7, 8 years in our Hebrew school, in our sanctuaries, 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks at camp changes their whole perspective and attitude about Judaism for the better. And so what's the secret? What is it about camp that is so helpful and so inspiring for the Jewish experience and for Jewish identity? What we can learn from these kids that can teach us as adults how better to appreciate. What can we learn from these kids that we can learn as adults that can teach us better how to appreciate our identity and the gift of being a Jew? So reflecting on these past 2 weeks at Camp Calswood, I wanted to share with you 3 lessons that we can take from camp and apply in our own homes and our own Jewish lives. The first is the lesson of Shabbat. Shabbat is different time. Shabbat is special time at camp. At camp on Shabbat, the food is better. We clean ourselves up. There might even be a shower. We dress in white. We sit with our friends, old and new, and we take our time at the meal. We sing songs and we dance till we can't dance anymore afterwards. We sleep in on Saturday morning. We connect with nature. We have a long period of time to relax or take advantage of things that we don't normally get to do during the week. And we end Shabbat with a ritual of Havdalah, that beautiful ritual with the braided candle that truly marks the time as different from the week that lies ahead and the week that was. Of course, we could do this in our homes here in Vancouver as well, but we could make Shabbat at home. We could make time for Shabbat. We could tell the world that it has to wait, that this time our family comes first, but so often we don't do that. At best, Shabbat is a dinner with our family, which is lovely and wonderful. But it can be so much more. It can be, as Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel described it, it can be an island of time. Zman Kodesh, holy time. A holy space separated and elevated from the busyness of our work, of school, and our just schlepping each other and our children from one place to the other. How do you make Shabbat an island of holiness? It starts, yes, with a special meal, nice dishes with friends and with family. But it extends beyond the meal. This is more than gastronomical Judaism. At camp, that extra space is filled with joy-filled songs and spirited dancing. And if your living room can accommodate it, I invite you to do both. And if your neighbors will permit it, I guess. But maybe instead, or beyond the singing and the dancing that is at camp, our Shabbos at home could include family board games, could include meaningful conversation, an evening walk through the neighborhood in the late summer nights, even a movie that we all watch together instead of on our separate screens and pads in our separate rooms, isolated and cut off. Shabbat is a time for connection, and it doesn't end on Friday. At least it doesn't have to end on Friday night. So how will you spend tomorrow? Because Shabbat is here. For many, you will come here. You'll come to celebrate Hadar's Bat Mitzvah. You'll come for Torah study. You'll come just to be in synagogue. If you can come tomorrow, you could come on another day when there's not a special event, when it's not by invitation. So if you're coming tomorrow, I want to invite you to reflect on how the experience feels. How do you feel sitting in synagogue on a Saturday morning? Notice how a few hours at the beginning of your day affect all the rest of the hours, not only on that day, but on the rest of the week. How shul changes you for good. The second of the 3 lessons that I learned from Jewish summer camp is about prayer. Prayer at camp is different. Prayer at camp is a collaborative experience. It doesn't exist unless we help create it. As a rabbi at camp on Shabbat, I usually tell a story. Some kid or other kids, they play guitar along with me, but the campers own the service. They choose the prayers, the melodies, the readings, the setting. And we need to do more of that here at Temple Sholom. Yes, we don't just sit on our hands at Temple Sholom. We sing along and we participate in the davening. But we also need to help create and to shape the experience. We need to own it as well. Because prayer is not the sole responsibility of the rabbi or the cantor. In Judaism, it takes a community to truly pray. We know that from the lessons about a minyan. And so we all have to contribute, and not just by our voices, but by our yearnings and our desires. We have to make plain what we need from this service, and then together capture it. Tomorrow, when Hadar leads the worship, let's not be an audience, but let's be a congregation, a Kehillah Kedosha, a holy congregation. Prayer is not a spectator sport. If the words of the prayer book, the Siddur, don't speak to you, then find your own. And if we turn a page but you are still engrossed in the one that we just left, stay there. Marinate in it. Reflect on it. Turn it over and turn it over again. Wrestle with the words on the page so that you can wrestle with them in your heart. Make prayer your own. Let's together make it ours. The third lesson that I learned from my time at summer camp is that camp runs on Jewish time. And by that I don't mean that we're always late. What I mean is that you don't have to go to a certain place to feel Jewish. It's in the air. It's in the food. It's in the names of the buildings, the types of activities. Judaism is a constant and consistent thread that runs throughout your day. From blessings in the morning and over meals to the art projects and the stories that are shared around the camp. Now, of course, it's hard to do this in the real world, with so many things competing for our attention and our energy. But if we continue to treat Jewish faith and practice as something to be kept under glass, broken only in case of emergency or family crisis, or only accessed when you come into this building a few times a year for special moments, life cycle events, to say Kaddish, then we'll never really learn how to use it, let alone to make it our own. There is much, much more that camp can teach us about the joys of Judaism. But let's start with time, with a purposeful Shabbat, with collaborative prayer, and with embrace of Jewish ritual every day, not just now and then. You can't spend the rest of your life in kindergarten. Though my mother tells me I did spend 2 years there because I failed scissors. And camp is only for a few months of the summer. But we can teach us what we can, each of us, kids and grown-ups, bring a little bit of camp into our daily lives, sprinkling it around our family and through our own Jewish identity, and seeing then what grows there. Your kids will thank you for it, and I think you'll thank yourselves as well. Shabbat Shalom. Our service continues, page 586. We rise for a lady. Please be seated. A reading before the Mourner's Kaddish, page 583. In the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we remember them. In In the opening of buds and the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of the leaves and the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as they live, we too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. We remember our loved ones for blessing at this time as we turn to page 598 for Kaddish Yatom. We recall those who died during this past week and these past 30 days whose families are in the midst of Shabbat and Shloshim. As I read the name of your loved one, if you please rise and remain standing so that we can comfort you. We recall the blessed memory that in the midst of Shloshim were Morris Lipkowitz. And those for whom your sight is on this Shabbat, as I read the name of your loved one, if you too would please rise. Marion Bloom, Beatrice Bookman, William Bullard, Jaime Bueller, Arthur Cherry, Oscar Rocky Dorfman, Anita Tonberg Edwards, Annie Feldman, Rita Gold, Rebecca Goldman, Mishu Grunberg, Nara Hebron, Ellen Beth Horwich, Diana Jacobson, Evelyn Cantor, Aaron Kaplan, David Katz, Jenny Klein, Gertrude Cotman, Jean Kramer, Odin Lacko, Lloyd Landa, Jan Lederer, Miriam Prasow, Sarah Ratner, Joseph Ratner, Joan Riverless Becker, Francis Reutman, Herman Salzberg, Miriam Spivak, Jack White, Joseph Wiesenthal, Hilda Zacher. If there are others who come to say Kaddish, remember loved ones, if you could please rise and share their name as well. We look around our congregation to see those that are standing in mourning. We don't want them to be alone, so we rise and stand next to them at this time, providing the comfort of our presence as we join in the mourners' Kaddish. We recall also all of those who died in defense of freedom and justice, those victims of terror of this land and the land of Israel and around the world, as well as those victims of the Shoah, who have no family left to remember them. We take it as our sacred obligation to recall them for blessing as well. Page 598. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah, Yomad, Yivra, Chibuteh, Yamlich, Malchuteh, B'chayachon, V'yomechon, V'chayeh, L'chol, Beit Yisrael, V'agalau, Hizman, Karim, V'yimaru, Amen. Yehei, Shemei Rabbah, V'borach, V'elam, L'omeh, Omayah, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitruman, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shemei L'kudishah, Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiron me'oma, v'yimaru, amen. Ehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimaru, amen. Osei shalom v'yimrumah, hu ya'asei shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei teva, v'yimaru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort the bereaved among us, and we say together. Congregation remains standing for a moment as Hadar joins us at the podium below to lead us in Kiddush and Motzi. And I want to invite all of you to join us if you would. We've got grape juice and Manischewitz. Come help us raise a glass and say L'chaim together. Shabbat Shalom.